Hello, welcome back to Doctor Who: The Eternity Clock, Part 8. And now it's time for... Ooh, I got another achievement. I think that's for completing the Victorian era in a certain amount of time. And of course it has to be a Sherlock Holmes reference. Anyway, now it's time for River to take the helm, and now we're back in the Elizabethan era. Oh, by the way, is it ever explained why the Doctor travelled forward to the Victorian era? I guess it's wibbly wobbly timey-wimey. You know, something I didn't mention before, that there's a comment 2 parts ago, right near the end, made by the Doctor, where he goes, "Something in the corner of your eye." And I want to point this out because there's an anthology Doctor Who book I've heard of, where there's a story written by Stephen Moffat. And the premise of this story is that for an entire man's life, or at least a period of 20 years, there's been this sort of alien hiding in his presence. You know, and that's why the story is called "In the Corner of Your Eye." And the funny thing about this creature is that when we do see him, he's this short, bald guy. And yeah, he looks exactly like the creature from Listen, sort of. So was Listen just a slight reference to his obscure story? Because if it is, I can sort of respect that. You know, I remember enjoying Listen when I first watched it, because you know it was like classic Moffat, as we described it. But I think the funny thing is, and I sort of agree where people are coming from this, from the opposite end, is that the people who disliked it said that it just felt like a rehash of Stephen Moffat's ideas. And you know what? I think they're right. Now people like it because it was like, you know, it's traditional Moffat again. Other people were like, "Oh, Moffat's rehashing his ideas," and I think they're both right. I can see. All I know is when I watched it, I was affected by it. I was interested in the story, and I wanted to know where it was going. So it must have did something right. But I do agree. Sometimes it does feel like Stephen Moffat has a certain set of ideas he keeps reusing. Even if you go on YouTube and watch Curse of the Fatal Death, it's a Children in Need special. That's obviously Doctor Who based, with Rowan Atkinson as the Ninth Doctor, and essentially all those ideas, nearly all of them, he has used in the series. And I thought that was just a comedy. You know, the Doctor changes gender. The Doctor gets married. The Doctor dies and then comes back. It's non-linear storytelling. The Doctor sort of tricks time to save the day. Lots of ideas. Although, to be accurate, in the new series, the Master has changed gender instead of the Doctor. And honestly, I think Stephen Moffat wants to make the Doctor a woman. I think that's something he wants to do. I'm not sure why. Like, I don't know. Actually, I don't. I think that the Doctor changing gender could happen, and it could work well if you get the right actress or if you write it properly. But put it this way, I don't have much faith in the writers to do it properly at this point in time. I mean, if I have a female Doctor, what if she ends up like River Song? Oh, you know, over sexualized, flirtatious, full of herself. I mean, granted, the Doctor would be full of himself no matter what his or her gender, but yeah, essentially, I could imagine it going rather badly. So yeah, a female Doctor maybe, but not as long as Stephen Moffat is in charge, I must say. And I say that I think he does want to do it. I think he's got a master plan. You know, he cast Matt Smith as the Doctor because after David Tennant that was the right Doctor to have. And then he cast Peter Capaldi because he thought that'd be a nice change. So yeah, the 13th Doctor will probably be a woman, because that'll be a change from Peter Capaldi. And I have to wonder why he wants to do it. I mean, does he do it because he knows a great female actress who could do it? Or does he want to do it just so he can say, Oh yeah, I'm Stephen Moffat. I cast the first female Doctor. That's an achievement of mine. And I say this because he does like to put his mark on Doctor Who. And he's past to turning into a Stephen Moffat rant. And honestly, I think he's a great writer. I think he's a brilliant writer. He's written some of the best stories of Doctor Who, period. But sometimes I have to wonder, maybe he's not the best producer. Maybe he should have just stayed a writer. Maybe he shouldn't have been put in charge of the show. Because let me see, what has he done now? He's undid the destruction of Gallifrey. He's added his own secret incarnation. He's showed us the Doctor as a child. He's also had Clara go back in time and save all of his previous incarnations. Oh, and he's also had that same companion go back in time and sort of inspire the Doctor as a child. So yeah, his mark is all over the show. Honestly, I really don't want to come across as resentful, but I am getting tired of his work. I've said before, he did some great work, but I want to change. I want a new flavour. He's one flavour, and I feel like having another flavour at this point. I want to put down the bag of Stephen Moffat and pick up maybe Phil Ford. Possibly, I don't know people who work in TV. It could either be maybe Phil Ford, who he worked on Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures, and I like the Sarah Jane Adventures. And there's Mark Gatiss, of course. Although his writing episodes, I would say they've been average, good and bad, inconsistent. But saying that, who says the showrunner has to be a good writer? Gatiss, he might be an okay writer, but he might be like a great producer. So we don't know how that would turn out. Oh, well, I've been on my anti-Moffat hatred rant. I've forgotten to talk about the gameplay. Well, first of all, the same puzzles as we saw in the Superman's ship. So yeah, a bit repetitive with the puzzles here. And no, just making them red doesn't make them seem that much more different. This one, the Cylons. If you don't know the Cylons, if you look away from them, you forget them. So you have to keep your eye on them, otherwise, they might get you. Oh, apparently images of them make you forget as well. Which, if their power is genetically engineering, I'm not sure how that works. Essentially, I think the Cylons are creepy, they've got a good design, they've got a fairly good premise, but I don't know, I feel like there's not much thought put into them, per se. Like, there's a few questions. Like, apparently they were engineered as priests, as confessional priests. So you forget what you told them. Well, wouldn't it make sense if the priests forgot what you told them, if it's a confession? Because otherwise, for a start, if you confessed to someone and they forgot, you would forget what you said, and also you would forget the fact that you confessed, and that just sounds like it could be used against you later on. And again, the images of these guys apparently cause you to forget as well. And when I say images, it appears to be film images. So if you drew a picture, would that make you forget? I'm probably overthinking this, but because I do like the Cylons as an idea. Particularly this type of enemy, like a conspiracy enemy that's been in the shadows, behind the scenes. I mean, in reality, the Cylons could have been manipulating the Doctor's life, or the entire fate of the universe, without him even realising it. It's the whole... It's sort of like a Men in Black CIA sort of Secret Service thing. So yeah, I do really like this idea of this great secret organisation, this enemy here. But I don't think it's utilised that well. Oh, and apparently their ambition was to stop the Doctor saying his name and thus starting the Time War again. by blowing up the. So they blew up the TARDIS, which caused the destruction of the universe nearly. I don't know what's going on. Or at least I know what's going on. I just don't quite. I just don't feel it flows that well. Maybe this sort of storytelling isn't suited for Doctor Who. Maybe I should just finally catch up with the X-Files. And I say that meaning maybe I shouldn't expect Doctor Who to be something it's not. You know, if I want a conspiracy-based story, maybe I should watch the X-Files. But then again, enough about what Doctor Who could be, or what it is, what it isn't. Oh my god, will you stop whispering to me? Oh, and there is an achievement here for getting through this without being checkpointed. And what I mean is, if you lose track of the silence, it starts you again from the checkpoint. Oh, there. Yeah. At that point, I was sent back all the way to the beginning of this section, and I had to make my way back here all over again. So I spared you that with my fantastic editing skills there. Yeah, sure, whatever. But anyway, this achievement of getting through here without being checkpointed, it's fairly easy to do. As you can see, you've got to take your time, keep your eye on the guys, and like sort of tag team them from one to the other.
Gotcha. Now, gently does it.
And that sequence is over with. So yeah, the silence, great idea for an enemy, probably not used that well. I mean, the fact is they have become, I wouldn't say they've become iconic per se, but they have become really well known. And I think that's because they are a good idea for a villain, definitely. And they have only appeared a couple of times. In fact, to go back to the story of Listen, written by Stephen Moffat, that seems to me that could have been a good introduction to the silence.
There we go.
I'm serious. Like, what if you had that story in series 5 or 6? Oh no, it would have to be series 5. Where we have that story, it alludes to someone or something being there. We don't know what it is. And then in the next series, we find out about this enemy called the Silence. And then you can look back and go, oh, it was them all along. And honestly, that's another issue with Listen. It was about this enemy who has the perfect hiding skills. And I thought to myself, isn't that the Silence? Or the Whipping Angels? Those two guys hide pretty well. But again, it goes back to the idea that Moffat seems to have a smaller selection of ideas. Look at enemy who's always a monster that it turns out it's always in the room with you without you realising it. Ooh, it just pop up a lot. And I'm really hard on Moffat here, but I think Russell T Davies had the same problem as well. And it makes me wonder about the structure of the show, where maybe it shouldn't be on one person. Maybe what the showrunner does should be split amongst other jobs. Because he's the head producer, the head writer, also the script editor. Just a few other people they could bounce their ideas off. That would work out a lot better. But don't mind me, I'm just another fan, I suppose, who thinks he knows how to run the show better than the people who are professionals. Entitled fan on the internet. I bet you've never met one of these before. There we go. I've got this worked out nearly. Ooh, so I just have to make sure that one was facing the right way. Oh, what are you doing? I had it sorted. The wheels on the puzzle go round and round, round and round. I have to keep doing it. It will eventually line up past me. And there we go. We set this up, and
Perfect. Now, time for a nap.
okay, River. Before you heal the universe, just remember, physician, heal thyself.